Good afternoon. It has been sunny all day. It has been bright since I woke up in the morning and I am just feeling the spring energy and I'm here for it. It is towards the end of Feb and I'm traveling early March, so this video is probably going to come out in the middle of March, in which case we're going to be in spring, and I'm just loving the energy that I'm feeling as we're moving into the new season. I am definitely a spring and summer girly, so I'm very excited, and I just want to bring that energy into my day to day. So earlier on this morning I did join an online sketching class with the Royal Academy of Arts. This was a live class. I actually filmed this as part of my previous video, so if you want more of my thoughts on that class in particular, make sure to check that out. And so today I want to use the sketches that I did in that class, because I did those in my A5 sketchbook, and I want to set them up in my A3 sketchbook as the first page, because originally I thought this sketchbook was going to be like a project sketchbook and I was going to focus on fantasy worlds. That was going to be fantasy books, movies, creatures and kingdoms. However, I think it's going to be a lot better for me to play around with it a little bit more and to just draw whatever I'm feeling called to. So maybe we'll have a spread that's dedicated to fantasy creatures, and maybe that is something that I will find really interesting and I will take up a lot of the sketches in here. But I don't want to limit myself to just doing that, because I think it's going to stop me from drawing things that I feel inspired by at that time. And so instead I want this to be a little bit more of an archive of my progress, of things that I'm experimenting with, of my development, and seeing how far I get by the end of the sketchbook. So I'm really excited to do this. So like I said, I will be setting up the first spread in here with the sketches that I did in this sketchbook, and then I don't know if I've done enough to fill a double page spread, so I might do some extra sketches to fill it up a little bit more. But to start off with, I need to rip out the pages of the sketches that I did. So let's go ahead and start setting this up. So I'm realizing that some of these sketches are not going to be able to be stuck down completely flat, because I do have sketches on the front and back. So the only one that I'm going to be able to stick down completely flat is going to be this one. And I quite like the idea of keeping this edge to it so that, you know, I can see that it's from a different sketchbook. But I'm gonna go get some other crafty bits as well that I can use for this too. Okay, so I don't necessarily have things that directly relate to figure drawing, so I figured I would just choose items that relate to spring, like some flowers and butterflies, a few stickers as well, just to give it a bit of a spring vibe. And then obviously I want the sketches to be the focus, and I want to do maybe some notes around it. So I'm just going to set this up in a layout that I like and then start sticking stuff down. I also have some spring themed tape that I think I can use to tape down the two sketches that have sketches on both sides of the paper. But I'm going to start sticking stuff down and we'll see where we end up. Okay, so this is where I have gotten to. It did take me a while to figure out the layout that I wanted. I like the way that this has kind of framed this sketch, and then I've got a couple of stickers dotted around to tie it together a little bit more. I do want to write down some notes on what was spoken about in the class, what I've learned, what my thoughts are, and just get that down on this spread. So that's probably what I'm going to do now. This one is stuck down, but these two are just stuck with tape because I do have sketches underneath the paper. So that's what we've got at the moment. I am a little bit sad that this one is covered because of this, so I might need to move it around a little bit because this tape can be pulled off quite easily. But I'm just going to add some notes onto this now. Okay, so this is the final result. I have written a few of my thoughts on both sides. So for this side, I wrote my thoughts on the 2-minute sketches and then the 16-minute sketches, and then on this side was focused on the 30-minute sketch that we did, and also my overall thoughts of just joining an online art class and hopefully doing more in the future. But this is in fact the final result. So I did manage to do a little bit of cozy gaming, which is something that I've been trying to fit into my week for the past couple of weeks, but it's just been so hectic and busy that I haven't managed to find the time to do that until most recently, which was really nice to do. Now, I am not an avid gamer, okay? I play a little bit once a month and then I put it away. So I tend to stick to things like Mario Kart or Mario Bros. I do play a couple of other games every now and then, but like I said, it's very rare that I will play. But it was a really nice way to switch off, so maybe I'll do it a little bit more frequently, or when I feel like I need something that will just help me switch off from everything else. I sometimes listen to music or an audiobook whilst I play, but this time round I just allowed myself to play the game and immerse myself in it, and that was actually really fun to do. So like I said, maybe I'll do that a little bit more often. I also then spontaneously went bowling and I popped into a Waterstones. I always feel so grounded any and every time I go to a bookstore, and I love that feeling. Even if I'm not going to buy anything, I have no books in mind to purchase, it's just nice to walk around. Sometimes I'll end up leaving with a book or two. This time I didn't. It's just nice to go in, feel a little bit grounded, a little bit more peaceful, and it's a nice way to uplift myself. So I've liked doing that as well. Now I am currently reading Air by Sabaa Tahir. I'm about 50% of the way through this, and I have a few thoughts. So firstly, when I first started reading this, I had mixed emotions, okay? I was ready to get back into this world because I had DNF'd 2 books one after another. So I DNF'd When the Moon Hatched, then I picked up The Secret History and DNF'd that. So I needed a book that I already knew that I loved the world and I wanted to get back into this. Hence, I picked up Air because I really enjoyed the Ember Quartet. And if you didn't know, the Ember Quartet is the original series and Air is the first book in a duology that is based 20 years after. And like I said, I was ready to get immersed into a world that I already knew. Now, alongside this, I wanted to know what had happened to the main characters of the first series, where they're at now, what's going on with them, but at the same time, we couldn't have too much of that because it would take away from the new characters and the new story. So the balance of that was something that I was unsure of how it was going to happen. When I got to about 30% of the way through Air, I did start to feel like I wanted a little bit more from the characters of the first series, to know more about them. And we did get that. I have been getting that, and I'm really liking the balance between how those characters are coming into play with the main characters of this story. We have 3 main characters, and I'm liking how they're all kind of interconnecting, how they're also connecting with the characters from the original series, how that's coming to play, and how we're learning more about this new generation. And I'm really enjoying the balance. Now, do I think it's going to be as good as the Ember Quartet? Probably not, but that's simply because the Ember Quartet just has a special place in my heart. But I'm still very much enjoying how this story is going, where we're going with the characters, how the characters have kind of interconnected with this storyline and connecting that with the characters from the original Ember Quartet. So I definitely would read the Ember Quartet before you pick this up, because that is just, it was amazing. I really enjoyed it. It's a YA fantasy. There's some romance in there. There's amazing side characters. It's a good book. There are some darker themes, so check your trigger warnings anytime you pick up a book, but I still very much enjoyed that. And you should definitely read that before you pick up Air, because otherwise you're just going to miss a lot of the information, a lot of the enjoyment that comes with reading the Ember Quartet. But like I said, I'm about 50% of the way through. Now, I do want to read Pride and Prejudice. However, I ended up pausing this because I started reading these other books. So my plan is to complete Air. I'm listening to a lot of this as an audiobook, so it probably won't take that much longer to finish. Once it is complete, then I can go back and pick up Air and pick up Pride and Prejudice, because I am still in the introduction. So I definitely want to pick this back up, but I realized that I thought I could read this alongside reading other books, but I realized I can't do that. It's better for me to just focus on one. This is part of my self-studying curriculum, which, if you didn't know what that was, I do have a couple of videos on this, but I basically have a few subjects that I'm focusing on that I want to learn more about, one of them being English literature, and the first focus of my English literature course is Pride and Prejudice. So my plan is to finish Air and then pick up Pride and Prejudice. Now, I mentioned that I joined a live sketching class on Saturday. That was part of the end of a different video, and you saw me put that together as the first page of my A3 sketchbook at the start of this video. Since then, I have felt my spark of drawing come back, and that's something that I thought I had lost, because anytime that I picked up a pencil or wanted to draw or do anything like that, I get frustrated with myself. I put too much pressure on it. I get a fear of doing something wrong or not progressing in the right way. But doing that class felt so good. It felt like such a good way to progress without the pressure, and it was also really fun to put it together into my A3 sketchbook. And I'm just envisioning how over the next few months, over the next year maybe, how that sketchbook is going to grow, and I'll be able to see my development, see my experimentations, and just have so much fun with it. So I definitely want to make that a bigger priority. I'm not sure how much, because I definitely need to balance between making it more of a priority without putting too much pressure on it. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out. Also, the online class that I did, they do have that monthly. They also have, I think they have some other online ones as well, and they also have in-person classes and courses. So I definitely want to do a couple of those over spring and summer, depending on the timings and also how expensive they are. But those opportunities and experiences that I've allowed myself to be open to have really made me feel that spark back again with drawing and my art, because that's something that I've really missed, and I didn't realize I was missing it that much. Another thing, this week I have definitely had a much better balance between my free time, because I think previously I was putting too much on during the week and wanting to do too many things, and it took away from the fun of it. Whereas this week I've allowed myself to be a little bit more flexible, be a little bit more relaxed. I've had 2 or 3 things that I focus on, namely reading, a bit of cozy gaming, and the sketching. And that's been a really good way for me to balance my hobbies, my self-studying, and also just life in general, energy levels, stress levels. So I definitely need to keep that in mind as I move forward and try to make sure that I don't overdo it when it comes to all the things that I want to do, all the things that I want to fit into a week, just to make sure that I still enjoy them all and I'm not putting so much pressure on it. But that's enough of me rambling. It's time for me to continue reading Air. This is so cute, okay? It's so cute. Hello, I am currently having a coffee because I have had a little bit of low energy today and I need this boost so that I can catch you all up. I have in fact finished reading Air by Sabaa Tahir and I am giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I liked the way that the storylines overlapped with the different POVs. I liked the way that the characters came together. I liked how the different stories were working in parallel. I liked the conclusion and the revelations that we had towards the end of the book that are going to lead us on to the second book in the duology. I also really liked the way that the main characters from the original quartet were brought into this, that they were quite important to the story but not the main part. I liked the way that that was kind of blended together. It could have very easily been that they weren't there enough or that they were there too much, but I think this had a really good balance of having them there but also having the main focus on the new characters and the new generation that we're following. And I really liked the way that all came together, that worked together, and this just gave me a bit of a boost because I've DNF'd a couple of books one after another recently, so it was nice to go back into a world that I already knew that I enjoyed, that I already liked, that I was pretty sure that I was going to enjoy. And even though it was a new plot and a new story with some new characters, I was pretty certain I was going to enjoy it, and I did. And this was a really nice book to read, to listen to, and I had a lot of fun with that. So I'm glad that I've read this and that I managed to get back into this world again because I have missed it. The Ember Quartet does hold a special place in my heart. I did read it in like the main winter block that we've just gone through, and so it was really nice to read during that time and I had a lot of fun reading it. I really connected to the characters and I enjoyed these ones too. Now, I didn't love any of the characters, but I did like all of them. Even the ones that weren't good, I still understood how they got to where they did, and I liked the way that their story progressed. So I did really enjoy Air. And then I have been doing some sketch classes on Skillshare. Now, I mentioned before that I did prefer the live class that I did last weekend compared to the Skillshare classes that I've done previously, which is true. However, I have been wanting to draw all week, but I've been really struggling with what to actually draw, and so I figured doing some classes would help me not only get some more practice in, but maybe open me up to more subjects that I might enjoy drawing, because that is something that I've been struggling with. These classes that I've done, I've actually did them last year, but I figured repeating them wouldn't do any harm. It would give me some more practice, and it's part of a learning path, and a lot of the classes later on in this path I haven't done before, so I'm just working my way through that. It was just a bit of practicing with some of the basics of drawing, and the next ones are a bit more detailed, but I did very much enjoy that. Like I mentioned, I am struggling with deciding what to draw. I tend to draw at home, and when I draw at home, I tend to draw things that are in front of me, but this can very easily just become repeated and I end up drawing the same things over and over again. So it's not giving me the inspiration that I want to draw, which is why I think initially I wanted to have a project focused on fantasy worlds, books, kingdoms, creatures, because there's so much inspiration that comes with that, and I always find myself drawn to that. And when I draw in my book journal, that is something that I really enjoy. So maybe moving forward, I will focus a little bit more energy in that. Maybe those are the subjects that I will focus on mostly, but it would be nice to just have things that I can draw more frequently without following a class, because that's something that I'm struggling with in terms of deciding what to draw. I am traveling next weekend and I think I'm going to get an A6 sketchbook. I currently have an A5 one and this is mostly what I draw in, but I think an A6 one will just fit in my bag a little easier. I'll take a pencil and a pen. I don't want to take too much equipment because I need it to be easy to carry and to take around with me. I do generally draw with pencil at the moment, but I really enjoy drawing with pen when I have done. So I'm going to take maybe one of each and just play around with it a little bit. I don't know how much I'll draw, but I think it would be really fun to just experiment with, to get a bit of practice in. And what better place to draw than in a new place that I haven't been before. I think that will really help with this inspirational side that I'm struggling with. And then when I come back home, maybe I can reevaluate what I want to draw moving forward. I still want to continue with the art classes, but I would like to have subjects that I focus on in general that I can just draw on my own as well, which, like I mentioned, is something that I'm unsure about at the moment. And of course those subjects will change, but it would be nice to have something that I enjoy drawing right now. So hopefully I can figure that out soon. At the moment, I am focusing on my recreational reading, English literature, so I will be picking Pride and Prejudice back up probably today, and also art, which means I think I'm going to be putting history and art history a little bit on a pause. Maybe I'll pick them up every now and then if I want to, but I think those other three that I mentioned are going to be my focuses. That's just what I felt most drawn to, and I've really enjoyed this past week because those three I think balance quite well with one another, and I tend to find myself in the mood to do one of them at least. So I think that will work really well, and I've really enjoyed the way that this week has gone with that because I haven't overwhelmed myself with all of the hobbies that I want to do in one go. So I'll probably come back to art history and history, but I don't know how frequently that will be. Maybe that will be more of a focus in autumn time, but at the moment I do want to focus, like I said, on English literature, reading and art. So that is where I'm at. Thank you for spending this week with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.